Now here is the risk that the Browns had to take with I love you, Cleveland. And I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith, my producer. It's great to have you aboard. Ryan, how you doing, partner?
I'm doing pretty well today, Bruce. No complaints for me. The weather's okay, but it's starting to turn around. And summer's here, Bruce, so I cannot complain in the slightest.
It's about time. We certainly deserve it, to say the least. So here we go with hopefully the beginning of a great summer. A lot of things to cover. Later on, we're going to have Mike Yeager, the head golf professional at Columbia Hills, where I belong, to preview the U.S. Open, which gets underway tomorrow. We're taping on a Wednesday as we speak. And we also will be covering the Guardians, the Browns, and the Cavaliers, as well as their respective sports. But first things first, as you know, we are the media outlet for the College Companies Championship. We were last year as well. And over the past 2 years, we've raised $2.6 million for and given to over 25 Northeastern Ohio charities. 72 years, Firestone Country Club, where the tournament is being staged, has been a stage for some of the greatest golfers in history. It's more than a tournament, and indeed, having raised $34 million for charitable organizations. We had Matt Colleague on the show here on Big Play about a week and a half ago, and we're all excited about conducting shows there. We will be conducting a show with Bonus Time with Drennan a week from tomorrow, as we'll have Jimmy Hanlon, our resident golf professional, PGA golf professional, on the show, and Carlos Baerga, my old buddy, second baseman for the Cleveland Indians during the heyday in the 90s before he went to the Mets. We're very excited, Ryan.
I can't wait, Bruce. We were there last year, as you mentioned. It's going to be bigger and better this time. Just the charity, the philanthropic Matt Colleague does such an amazing job to give back to a city that's given him so much. It's 2 tickets, 1 experience. You go there for the golf, which, by the way, I went last year. It was my first time ever going to a professional golf outing, and it was amazing. And then afterwards, it's a huge party. You get to meet people. It's going to be an absolute blast. You don't want to miss it. CallGolf.com.
Yeah, the Infinity Zone is where the party takes place. Gigantic Broadway-type stage with entertainment and all kinds of concessions and just a great fun. Wednesday evening, there'll be so much activity and entertainment, and throughout the weekend. CollegeGolf.com. CollegeGolf.com is where you go for ticket information. Speaking of Firestone, I'm actually tomorrow going to be participating in the Ohio Open Media Day. The Northern Ohio Professional Golfers Association is sponsoring the Ohio Open Media Day, where selected members of the media, including yours truly, will be assigned to a group with a competitive golf professional who will be playing and competing in the Ohio Open. Previous winners have featured Byron Nelson and a guy by the name of Jack Nicklaus. The Ohio Open is returning to Firestone Country Club for the first time since 1962. It's going to be staged on June 30th through July 2nd, and I'm actually teeing off tomorrow at 12:50. I'll be playing with Blake Sattler, pro golfer from New Philadelphia, Ohio. Played at the University of Akron, has many records, and I'm really looking forward to meeting him and playing with him, because you know, if you followed me over the years, I do a lot of overnighters, and I go down to that portion of our wonderful state 4, 5, 6 times a year to play those great courses down there. So it's like a home away from home for yours truly. All right, when we come back, let's shift gears, cover the Guardians. What have I been telling you the last 2 weeks? Beware, be careful. We're in danger of falling behind double digits. That's next. Bonus Time with Drennan. Big Play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows. Energy-efficient products at an affordable price. Visit smartchoicewindows.com today.
I love you, Menor Nissan. Hi, Bruce Drennan here from my good friends at Menor Nissan. Ray Sminchak, the whole staff. As you know, I've been doing a lot of our shows down in Florida, just returned. Great to be back on the home confines of our beautiful studios here at Burke Lakefront Airport for Big Play. But I got to tell you, I drove my Nissan Rogue from Menor Nissan down to Florida, had the rack up on top with extra luggage. It was absolutely the most splendid, beautiful ride. Just as smooth as could be. My wife also drives a Rogue. We rotated driving down there and back, but I just can't recommend it any more so to you. Get on out there, test drive a Rogue or a Murano or any of the other great products that they have out there at Menor Nissan. Don't forget, they're now in partnership with Infinity of Akron and Infinity of Beechwood. Check those great vehicles out as well. Service department is absolutely fantastic. Went back to the dealership to get maintenance after that long drive down there and back. And give them a call. Set up an appointment. Of course, check out their website at MenorNissan.com. That's MenorNissan.com. I love you, Menor Nissan. Wow, what a game. Cincinnati won the 0-0 victory over the Guardians. Slade Ciccone against Andrew Abbott. Wow. My favorite type of a game. Pitchers do it like that. The slightest mistake means the difference. Scoreless tie going into the 5th inning, and revenge seeker Will Benson, former Indian, led off with a double to left center. His 9th hit and 19 at-bats versus Cleveland this year in the series, including 4 home runs. And then Spencer Steer followed with an RBI single, and that's all she wrote. Abbott and Ciccone were both brilliant. Abbott was a bit more brilliant, and he was backed up with some brilliant defense. In the 4th inning, T.J. Friedel made a fine running catch in left center at the track right in front of the wall. And in the bottom of the 7th inning, right fielder Jake Fraley made a spectacular diving catch on Jose Ramirez's line drive. That was the play of the game. Now, it almost felt like Abbott had a no-hitter going. The intensity of a no-hitter was very prevalent in this game. Abbott wound up with a complete game shutout, rendering only 3 hits with a single, 5 strikeouts. It was the first complete game, 9-inning complete game for a Cincinnati pitcher since Wayne Miley's no-hitter in Cleveland, by the way, back in May of 2027. And it was the first shutout since Homer Bailey's no-hitter against Pittsburgh back in 2012. The Reds are hot right now. They've won 5 in a row. They've moved 2 above the 500 mark at 35 and 33, and have moved 2 above that 500 mark. Get this one. Over 11 starts this year, Abbott is 6-1 with a 1.87 earned run average, a 1.32 ERA in his last 8 starts. In his first 10 games in the major leagues in 2023, he posted a 1.90 ERA, and think he's going to make the All-Star team for the National League? Better than that. He's in the conversation right now for the National League Cy Young Award, along with Mackenzie Gore of Washington, Chris Sale of Atlanta, Paul Skeens of Pittsburgh. But none of those 3 match Abbott's numbers. Granted, we have a long way to go, no question about it, but there's only 3 National League pitchers who can come close to the numbers. Sonny Gray of St. Louis is 7-1, but his ERA is 3.35. Zach Wheeler of Philadelphia is 6-2 with an ERA of 2.85, and he has 101 strikeouts in 82 innings. A former Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray of San Francisco, who sports an 8-1 record and a 2.44 ERA. The bottom line is Cincinnati and former Indians manager Tito Francona have a keeper in Abbott. The 6', 190-pound lefty, only 26 years old. Meanwhile, let's talk about Slade Cecconi. 25-year-old righty is the pitcher that we got in the Josh Naylor trade. Against the Reds last night, he went 5 innings, giving up the lone run in the 5th on 4 hits, I should say, while striking out 8 and walking only 1. Now, since being activated on May 17th after starting this season on the IL, he is 1-3 with a 4.26 ERA. In 25 1/3 innings, he's pitched, he's got 28 strikeouts. He's a gamer and an intense competitor. And it appears that Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff, again, have pulled off another coup as far as a deal or in drafting. Cecconi is locked up for several years to come and could be a great addition to our starting rotation that includes promising young starters Tanner Bybee, Gavin Williams, and even Logan Allen. And by the way, just for your information, if indeed you are curious, Josh Naylor, who we traded to get Cecconi, is hitting .297, 8 home runs, 45 RBIs. He's got 16 doubles, 1 triple, 9 stolen bases. And he hit a grand slam Monday night against Seattle. The Guards are now 34-32 and have fallen 9 games behind Detroit in the American League Central Division in 3rd place. Minnesota is 8 games out ahead of the Guards in 2nd place, and Kansas City's 9.5 behind the Guards in 4th place in our division. As I've been warning for the last couple of weeks, this portion of the schedule is especially challenging for Cleveland to avoid falling too far behind Detroit to contend for the divisional crown. Detroit is now 20 games above the 500 mark at 44-24. That's the best record in the American League and the best record that is in the major leagues. The only team that comes close are the New York Mets, who lead the National League East at 43-24. The bad news for the Guardians is that the American League East has joined the wild card hunt. Toronto's 37-30 and Tampa Bay is 36-31. So as we speak, Minnesota would be the 3rd wild card entry. Now, we obviously have a lot of baseball left to play this year, but we're not even at the halfway mark, granted. But the reality is when a team falls this far behind, it becomes a mathematical reality as far as what percentage you must play to catch a team like Detroit in this case. And that's considering that the Tigers would only play 500 ball the rest of the way. The Guards are 3-6 in the month of June, going in today's finale of the series versus Cincinnati as we tape this show. It's on to contending Seattle over the upcoming weekend, then on to contending San Francisco for 3. After concluding the West Coast trip with 3 in Oakland, the Guards come home for 3 against contending Toronto, and then versus contending St. Louis to end the month of June. Now, that's when I believe that we will know whether we are buyers or sellers as we approach the trade deadline at the end of July. Ryan.
Yeah, here's to hoping that for the Guardians, the beginning of June has been a hiccup rather than a sign of things to come for this ball club. You know, it's been a rough stretch. You faced phenomenal pitching just in the last few series. Yamamoto, Tarek Skubal, we mentioned Wade Miley, who has over 100 career wins, and Abbott, who's having a career win himself. And for our Guardians, while our starting pitching hasn't necessarily been tremendous, it hasn't really been the issue, Bruce. Luis Ortiz, outside of a little hiccup versus the Reds, has been pretty good. Tanner Bybee's turning it up. Logan Allen been all right. And you mentioned Slade Cecconi has been tremendous really throughout his first couple starts here of this season, despite the win-loss record. And it comes back to hitting, as we all know, outside of Jose Ramirez, who's having himself a career year, an MVP year if it weren't for guys named Aaron Judge. Steven Kwan's hitting the ball pretty well. Carlos Santana is actually coming along really well, having a hot start. But the thing is, outside of that, Angie Martinez has come down to earth, and it seems like the Guardians are trying to figure out what they have in these young guys, platooning them so often. But at the same time, it's hurting their chances to win. And we're going to get to a point, Bruce, where you mentioned we get to July towards the All-Star break, and we're really going to have that big picture where the Guardians are buyers or sellers.
Nick Chubb is gone. That's next. Bonus time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home by visiting pureavcorp.com.
End of an era. Nick Chubb has signed a one-year contract with Houston. $25 million, or $2.5 million, I should say. He wishes it was $25 million. Four-time Pro Bowler with bonuses and incentives. It's more than that, about $5 million plus, I believe. It gives Houston a very formidable running back 1-2 punch with Joe Mixon. And no surprise here. The writing was on the wall when the Browns drafted Quentin Junkins out of Ohio State and the Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson, and they're in the running back room now. So this is no surprise, but it is sad because Chubb was never is never going to realize, who knows if we will, the Browns as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And to me, he's one of the greatest. And, you know, Cleveland, if you look at the history of the Cleveland Browns, they're known, I think historically, for kickers, starting with Groza, Cockcroft, Matt Barr, Dawson, you go down the list. We're known for kickers as some of the greatest of all time. I think also offensive linemen, but most importantly, running backs, starting with Marion Motley, Jim Brown, Davis, Leroy Kelly, and now Nick Chubb, let alone Biner and Mack too. But Nick Chubb, he was that good.
Yeah, Bruce, it's not surprising in the slightest, but it's still just heartbreaking. Nick Chubb has been nothing but a professional on and off the field since he got drafted in 2018, and seeing his journey has been so amazing. You go back to 2018 when he was first drafted. Well, his former teammate Sony Michel was drafted in the first round ahead of him. Baker was obviously the headline of that draft, and not many people know who Nick Chubb was. There was when Hard Knocks was in here, you know, the cameras were all on Baker Mayfield, and people didn't really know who Nick Chubb was at the time. And obviously now that has totally changed. He's just, as I said, been the most professional player I've seen for the Cleveland Browns in my lifetime, and just has meant so much to this team. He's been through so much, all the Baker era, just the beginning, all the drama with Odell, all that, through Freddie Kitchens, through Hugh Jackson. He's really been here for it all, and it's sad to see him go, Bruce, but I hope he gets a chance in Houston to prove, you know, that he's more than just that injury, and he can have a beautiful second half of his career.
Provided it's not against us. The quarterback battle goes on. Sanders has glittered so far, but rather than talking about that in this NFL segment, I'd rather talk about another quarterback by the name of Aaron Rodgers, who has finally signed with Pittsburgh. How about Myles Garrett's quote? And I do mean quote. Good opportunity to put him in the graveyard. Graveyard, he said.
Well, you know, Miles, he's got that graveyard for Halloween where every quarterback he sacks, he lays that there in the yard, and he's got a point. Now we'll have 2 times at the very least to go ahead and sack Aaron Rodgers and add that to his Halloween
will be
show.
October 12th at Pittsburgh, the second game here in Cleveland after Christmas, December 28th. So Halloween will be around the time, the month of October. And, you know, Garrett decorates his yard with quarterbacks, Halloween caricatures of quarterbacks that he has sacked. So I'm sure that he'll have Rodgers as a target who he's faced only one time when he was with Green Bay and didn't get to him. In 2024, Rodgers tied for the 7th most sacks, going down 40 times. That's one stat. And Garrett has had 12 or more sacks in each of the last 5 seasons. By the way, Rodgers apparently was secretly married recently, seen wearing a wedding ring in a Super Bowl. I should say, shown in a press conference wearing a wedding ring. He was questioned about it and seemed very nonchalant. Said, yeah, it's a wedding ring, for what it's worth. And everybody's entitled to their privacy. I'm not saying any differently. But I'm sure that Pittsburgh fans couldn't care less about him getting a wedding ring. They want a Super Bowl ring out of him, to say the least.
I don't know Aaron Rodgers personally, Bruce, but I think it takes a special woman to be married to a man like Aaron Rodgers, who labels himself as, quote, the enigma. So God bless Aaron Rodgers. God bless his wife, whoever that is, and I hope they have a long, happy, healthy marriage.
I like the way my producer, a special kind of woman to be married to Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Is that a woman who has to put up with the ego of a Jeopardy host or what?
That's exactly what it is.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. NBA Cavs, Darius Garland next. Bonus time with Drennan, big play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com today.
All right, tonight will be the Game 3 of the NBA Championship between Oak City and Indiana. We'll get to that in a minute, but recently news about our Cavaliers, not good. Darius Garland has undergone surgery for that toe injury that plagued him ever since he got hurt in the first round of the postseason this year, and the word is that he'll be out 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, 4 to 5 months. That was a word from Shams Charania, which is a little bit strange because I believe the initial wording was that Darius Garland would be ready to go tip-off game 1 of next season, but the timeline doesn't quite add up. I saw something along the lines of potentially him missing maybe 10-ish games to start the season, but what does that mean for the Cavaliers? Well, one, it means I don't know if the Cavaliers were really going to shop Darius Garland regardless, but now this certainly restricts the potential buyers for Darius Garland, knowing that he's going to be missing a decent-sized portion to begin the season next year.
Well, does this mean, Ryan, that it's unlikely, I think extremely unlikely that he'll be dealt because the precarious situation of coming off an injury and surgery like that, at least the outlook by a potential. They wouldn't want to give up much considering that, would they?
Exactly. So now it feels like all eyes turn on to Jared Allen, who has been the popular one that people have identifying as this offseason. If you're going to move one of those core 4 members, it'd be a Jared Allen. The issue there is you're paying him $20 million, and people now have had 2 postseasons to really see him shrink, and I'm not sure that somebody's going to want to go out and acquire a guy like Jared Allen for that contract.
Isn't the odds against the Cavs, regardless of what they do with Allen, that they can keep Jerome, keep Strus, keep Merrill?
It's going to be very interesting because I'm not exactly an expert on how that second apron works, but the Cavs are already past that point, given that one, Donovan Mitchell's on a massive contract, Evan Mobley's on a massive contract. Given that he just won Depoy, that's going to increase the money that I believe you're going to have to pay him. And then, like I said, you're paying Jared Allen $20 million, which isn't cheap by any stretch, and then Darius Garland. So the opportunities that the Cavaliers are going to have to move players is going to be very tight. I believe once you're past that second apron, it's like every $1 you spend is really $3, and Dan Gilbert has never been shy to show his deep pockets when it comes to acquiring players.
That's true.
But with the new CBA, there are restrictions that the Cavaliers have to follow. So it'll be an interesting offseason, Bruce, to see how Kobe Altman and how they navigate it.
Ties into this too. I think that the known untouchables obviously are Mitchell and Mobley, but be curious to see if indeed they get feelers for Allen. How many teams need certainly the LA Lakers might be interested, but I don't know how many other teams would be willing to give up what Allen's worth is to the Cavaliers to improve the Cavaliers. A parallel, trade doesn't do the Cavs any good as far as the postseason, unless it means a lot more physicality, because that's really been lacking the last 3 years. All right, let's move on to the NBA Championship. Oak City, as we tape this show, is a 5-point favorite going into the first game in Indiana, which is Game 3 with the series tied at 1.
Yeah, Bruce, Indiana Pacers obviously stole Game 1 in OKC Thunder, and they've won every single Game 1 on the road throughout this postseason. It kind of takes teams, it feels like, a little bit to adjust to the high-tempo offense that in the deepness that is the Pacers, and the Thunder certainly bounced back in Game 2. And if the rest of the series is anything like Game 2, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going off for 30 points, the Thunder proved they're even deeper, and they play suffocating defense like they've done all year. This series could be over, Bruce, in 5 games.
I thought it was vital that Indiana stole a game in the first two in Oak City. They were able to do so with another miraculous come-from-behind victory in Game 1. But I think the pressure's really on Indiana in Games 3 and 4. They've got to win both of these games in order to win the series. Or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. If you go back to Oklahoma City down 3-1, the series is all but over. You got the Game 1 steal, which was important. You have to defend your home court. And if anybody can do it, it's the Pacers. It's just kind of that thing. You're getting to the NBA Finals. You're playing the best defense you placed all season long in the Oklahoma City Thunder. Can your historic shooting really keep it up? And like I said, if anything is like Game 2, no starter in 20 points or more. They all scored double digits, but it goes back to SGA supplying the fireworks. Pacers don't really have that if Tyrese Halliburton isn't scoring.
But from an Oak City point of view, my bigger point is if Oak City can split the two games that are upcoming in Indiana, the series shifts back to Oak City tied at 2, which means it comes down to a 2 out of 3 series with 2 of those games in Oak City. Hard to believe Indiana can win that.
Yeah, it is hard to believe it. It goes back to what we just saw in Game 2. Like, if the Pacers aren't all money, and if Tyrese Halliburton isn't going for 20, you don't have Pascal Siakam, a guy going for 30 points himself, well, then you're relying on Nembhard and Naismith, which is a fine formula. They've gotten you this far, but it goes back to once you're in the NBA Finals, you need your superstars to step up, like your Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders, and even the bench for the Thunder. They've had Alex Caruso go for 20. They had Wiggins go off for, I think it was 18. They're just so deep, and it comes down to the defense. Lou Dort is suffocating. Jalen Williams is suffocating. Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein on the glass are just suffocating. It's been too much for Indiana, at least in Game 2 it was.
Ryan, let me ask you, I confess I failed to do so, and I apologize for that. Have you checked out to see how the ratings were in the first 2 games at Oak City?
I believe I saw the ratings for the first game, and I believe they were not good, Bruce, which doesn't make sense. I get it. It's not a big market, but Game 1 was so exciting, Bruce. It came down to the last second with Halliburton. I think if people just threw away the labels and wanted good basketball and tuned in, they'd be happy with the product.
But they were low, huh?
They were. At least Game 1 I saw was.
You didn't see 2?
I did not.
You would think they would raise after for Game 2 because Indiana pulled off the upset. I think it was a foregone conclusion that Oklahoma City might sweep or win this series in 5, which still might happen. But because Indiana won Game 1, curiosity would rule with neutrality fans, NBA fans across the country to watch Game 2. So look up for next week's show how Game 2 and the rest of the ratings have gone.
You got it.
All right. When we come back, we shift gears to my favorite of the 4 majors. The United States Open will tee off tomorrow at Oakmont, one of the toughest golf courses in the world in normal conditions. But it's the U.S. Open, and they're tricking it up for the greatest players on the planet. Mike Yeager, head golf professional at Columbia Hills Country Club, my home course. We'll preview. That's next. Bonus time with Drennan on the Big Play Sports Network.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
Father's Day weekend is upon us. And with that being said, you know what that means? It means that it's U.S. Open weekend. My favorite of the 4 majors. Why? I've said this for years. If you haven't heard, or if you're a recent viewer of our show, it's because I love seeing the pros like Mike Yeager humbled by the rest of us saps that adore this game. Mike Yeager, the head golf professional, PGA pro, and general manager of Columbia Hills Golf Club, my home course, is joining us now. Mike, I can hardly wait, especially at Oakmont, where they don't have to trick it up. It's tough enough, but they are.
Yeah, I mean, for everything that I've read, this is going to be the most difficult test of golf. You are definitely going to get your wish and see even the greatest players in the world humbled this week, that's for sure.
I saw some video this morning as we're taping that they were trimming the rough, and it still looked like it was almost knee deep.
Yeah, I saw some really neat videos too from their director of agronomy doing some interviews. They've redone their rough over the last couple of years, and as you know, you can grow rough up, and what it does is it typically will fall over on itself, right? So you could still get a ball that sits on the crown of that grass. What they have at Oakmont is 3 different kinds of rough. It's a mixture of a fescue and a bluegrass and something else. But what it does is it grows straight up, and to the point where they've even modified their mowers to not have rollers on it. So when they're cutting the tips of that grass, it's still standing straight up. So what does that do? If you hit your ball into the rough, it's going to fall to the very bottom, and you to the point where you might not even see it if you're standing right on top of it.
The greens will be lightning fast. They always are for the U.S. Open. Are they also very undulated at Oakmont?
Oh my gosh, yes. They're absolutely huge green complexes. They're going to roll like they're on glass. And then there's just super slope. I mean, I always think of Augusta as having the big greens with a ton of slope, but there's parts of these green complexes where if you hit it there, it's not going to hold even. You're going to see guys 4-putt this week. It's going to be wild.
Oakmont is considered one of the toughest golf courses in the world, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. And especially when it's set up for a U.S. Open. I mean, it's missing the fairway is going to be beyond penal. I wouldn't be shocked if +7 is a top 10 finish. I think you might even get your wish of a plus finish that wins it. If somebody is able to just really stay out of the junk, maybe a -1, -2 could win it. But I actually feel like that's kind of a long shot based on everything I'm reading about course conditions.
Scotty Scheffler is the overwhelming favorite, according to Las Vegas, to win. He has now won 3 majors, 2 Masters, and, of course, most recently, the PGA, the second of the 4 majors. His pairing in the first 2 rounds starts on Thursday at 125 on number 1, and he's actually, his threesome is himself, Victor Hovland, and Morikawa. What a threesome.
Yeah, the USGA always does a really nice job of putting together these pairings for not only the folks that are on property, but all of us at home. I mean, when we get into these majors, it's must-see television, especially at a golf course like this. Scotty's got such a comfort level, right? He seems like the type that is not going to be bothered when you make the mistake, right? And I think that's what's going to separate all these golfers today. They're used to knowing that they can birdie every hole, right? And I think that there's going to be a number of these holes where they just have to accept that they are going to have a mistake. They're going to make a double. They're going to make a triple, but they have to let that roll off their back and move on. It's the ones that can't, where I saw Rory even, he played a practice round last week, I believe he said. He shot 81 and bogeyed the last 2 holes. So unless you're mentally strong, like, this course is going to tear you apart.
Speaking of Rory, I guess he's going back to his old driver. What's it called? The QI10?
Yeah, he got dinged for a non-conforming driver a few weeks ago. And then, truth be told, so did Scotty Scheffler. For whatever reason, it got leaked about Rory. I don't think it was anything where he was trying to gain a competitive advantage. A lot of times when these tour players are testing out prototypes, it could be just a weight situation or whatever. And if you remember earlier in the year when he was hot, playing at, I believe, Bay Hill, he sent an Uber back to his home to get his previous driver and gave him like $800 or something. So a lot of these guys like their older stuff. They hate to change it. So maybe the change could help him.
Yeah, speaking of a change, DeChambeau, by the way, along with McIlroy and actually John Rahm, are next as far as Vegas is concerned for the favorites behind Scheffler. DeChambeau has changed his irons. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, they call him the mad scientist for a reason. I mean, that man is literally always tinkering. He's been designing his own irons with LA Golf for a number of years. So if he's making the change, don't be surprised. It's not because he's just trying to change something for the sake of changing it. He's only doing it if he's confident using those irons.
What were your thoughts when he originally came out with all of his clubs being the same length? And you know what? It's amazing. We've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I mean the thought and the science behind a one length iron or club has been there for actually a long time. It's just never really been utilized, right? So I get it in my head because then your swing is the same every time. You stay on the same plane, whether you're hitting a wedge or you're hitting a 4 iron. Practically speaking, it's hard. I've actually tinkered with this. I had a set here at the club, and it's fine with your longer irons, but when I get down to a wedge that's the length of a 7 iron, I instinctively was choking down, and you just can't do that. So I think it's a mind over matter situation, but it's certainly working for him.
How do you look at DeChambeau, the defending U.S. Open champion, McIlroy, and Leno John Rahm's chances?
I think you got to hit fairways. I mean, we always say that. It seems like a benign thing to say, but I would look at the guys that are hitting the most fairways. I don't even care how long you hit it. It's a long golf course, but if you miss these fairways, you're dead. And again, what are you doing after you hit the fairway? You're hitting the greens in regulation most often. So Bryson has done the best out of those three of those guys. Rory has been very, very, very loose with his driver. Rahm's been fighting it a bit, and they've made up with their short game, right? Bryson has been more accurate tee to green out of the three of those guys, so I definitely give him the leg up.
Speaking of McIlroy, what a pairing he's got. 740 on Thursday is going to be his front nine on the back nine, starting on number 10. He's paired up with his buddy Shane Lowry and Justin Rose. That's a very interesting threesome.
Yeah, all three Europeans. I mean, Rosie's and Lowry for that matter. They always show up at these majors. I think I've even picked Lowry in the past, and he's bit me. But Rose has been in contention. What was that at Augusta earlier this year? At his age, I think it comes down to course knowledge a lot too. These guys have played at this golf course a lot, so certainly wouldn't count any of them out. And the USGA put them in a very comfortable, chummy group, so there shouldn't be too much tension as well.
Scheffler tees off on number 1 on Thursday for his front nine at 1:25 Eastern time. He's paired with Victor Hovland and Morikawa. That's a great threesome as well for the gallery.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's awesome. I think for Scotty, it's hard to critique any of his game, let's be honest. But like when he gets hot, it's usually on the greens. If he's making putts and making those saves from like 15 feet and in, he's not losing. It's just that simple. So that's what I'm going to be looking for when the tournament starts tomorrow is how's he putting on these super fast greens. He's going to hit fairways. He's going to hit the middle of the greens with his approaches. But if he's able to start making some putts, that's when he can actually separate himself from everyone else.
Mike, these are the greatest players on the planet, but they're also human. Playing with Scheffler, the way Scheffler is playing, and right now you'd have to look at him like you did at Tiger Woods in his prime and Nicklaus in his prime. Does that affect a Hovland and a Morikawa being paired with him, or are they above that because they're such great pros and two of the best in the world as well?
I've actually thought about that a bit because I grew up watching Tiger in his prime, and he just had such a fear factor, didn't he? I mean, it was more so just his attitude, where Scotty is so laid back. It's rare that you even see him get too excited about anything. I can't imagine what his blood pressure level is, but it doesn't seem to change very often during a round of golf. But I mean, Jack Nicklaus made a comment after the Memorial that I thought was pretty eye-opening, especially coming from Mr. Nicklaus. And he said, before these guys teed it up on Sunday, the tournament was over. He said Seb Straka's a nice player, and I forget who else was in contention, but he's like, they're not on his level. As long as he didn't get in his own way, he was going to win that golf tournament, and that's something we haven't seen since the heyday of Tiger Woods. So I think as long as Scotty doesn't get in his own way or get injured or something wild, the way he's playing right now, he's that much better than everyone else.
So foregone conclusion, he's your pick. Any long shot picks?
I think like Ludwig Aberg, he's got so much potential. We saw it last year quite a bit. He hasn't made that leap this year. I like guys that find fairways. So Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, some of those types of players. If I were to pick two, and before I jumped on with you, it was probably Bryson or Scotty, with the slight edge to Scotty. I think Bryson's still playing very, very well, and with his length, if he hits the fairway, that could be a very good competitive advantage at this golf course as it dries out a bit.
Is it wrong to advise all the millions who are in U.S. Open pools that despite his unbelievable God-given talent, until Oberg wins a major, isn't there some hesitation taking him?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said he'd be a long shot to me. I don't know what his odds are. I'm sure they're like 30 to 40 to 1 or something like that. But if I was looking for somebody that could just come out of nowhere per se, it'd probably be someone like him. He is very long. He is fairly accurate. It's just tough to think about anybody other than Scotty right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I can hardly wait. It is must-see viewing, and I, for one, am not going to miss a shot. If I have to tape and stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning to see every single stroke, I will. Mike, as usual, thank you, my friend. I'll see you out at Columbia Hills.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Mike Yeager, head golf professional, PGA professional, and general manager at Columbia Hills Golf Club, my home course. Ask Bruce segment next. Bonus time with Drennan on Big Play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Infinity. Luxury experiences for those who dare to be different. Visit infinityofbeechwood.com today.
Thanks to Mike Yeager. Hardly wait for the U.S. Open. Any thoughts on what Mike shared with us and my 2 cents worth during the last segment?
It just sounds like it's Scotty against the field, Bruce, which is uncharted territory. I mean, I wasn't really into golf for the heydays of Tiger Woods and certainly wasn't for Jack Nicklaus, but so this is really the closest thing I'll get to the perceived GOATs. I know Scotty Scheffler has a long, long way to go, still has to complete the career Grand Slam, Bruce, but if he gets this one done, he'll have 3 out of the 4, 2 back-to-back, Bruce. Scotty Scheffler, unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime of golf.
Well, before we get on to the questions in the Ask Bruce segment, just want to acknowledge that the Triple Crown of horse racing is now completed with last week's running of the Belmont Stakes, which were actually staged at Saratoga in Upper New York because Belmont Stakes in New York City was undergoing a renovation. So Sovereignty, the Kentucky Derby winner who did not race in the Preakness, turned out to be the winner decidedly against Journalism, who was the winner in the Preakness, the only race of the 3 that Sovereignty did not compete in. That was staged only 2 weeks after the Derby win for Sovereignty. One must question historically if it was wise of the trainer and the owners of Sovereignty to not at least give their horse the opportunity to become, the 14th only to win the Triple Crown. But then again, would he have been as fresh to endure the longest of the 3 races, which is the Belmont? Who knows? But he did win decisively against Journalism, who did win the Preakness.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see if he could have gone for history, but like you said, Bruce, who knows if he would have run in the second leg? Who knows if he would have won the third leg?
Yeah.
It's all give and take cause, and we'll never know.
And we're going to have Ken Miles on, hopefully, when we do that special show from Firestone next week on Bonus Time with Drennan, a special 1 o'clock in the afternoon live version of Bonus Time with Drennan. We'll get his 2 cents worth on that. Of course, he is the owner, one of the owners here of our network, but he's also the owner of Seize the Gray, last year's winner of the Preakness. All right, Ask Bruce.
Alrighty, let's do it. Hey, Bruce, just over 40% of the Guardian season is in the books. Wow, that's hard to believe. From how everything is played out, what letter grade would you give them for their offseason moves?
C. They're right around 500. Unfortunately, recently they have not played good ball, so that's rapidly becoming close to a C minus. Depending on these next few weeks. But we went through in the baseball segment how tough that's going to be, this West Coast trip, and then we come home and we're playing Toronto and St. Louis. Not easy as we complete this month of June. A C right now.
Alrighty, hey, Bruce, the 2-hole for the Cleveland Guardians has been a carousel so far this season. Who would you like to see get the most at-bats at the 2 spot throughout the rest of this season?
Well, again, I always refer to that. I mean, that's a managerial decision where you can even put Jose there. I mean, look at the Yankees. They put Aaron Judge. I've commented on this before. Aaron Judge hits in the 2-hole. Now, you would think he's got to be number 4 in the cleanup spot, or I dare say number 3, but it really doesn't matter. I think Jimenez was the prototypical number 2 hitter before we traded him to Toronto. But what you want there is a guy that can go the opposite direction to move preferably the leadoff man who reaches base into scoring position. So in that regard, the Guards have got 2, 3, 4 guys who could fill that role.
Alrighty, last one for you. Hey, Bruce, can you put into words how impressive Jose Ramirez has been this season, including his 36-game on-base streak? And how close is he, to your opinion, climbing the ladder of being labeled the greatest Guardian of all time?
Oh, my. Wow. You go back to the 48 team. You go to the 54 championship team. You go to the 90s Cleveland Indians team. There's so many guys to choose from, but I've always said Jose is an underrated superstar nationally, and that's a great question, and still to be determined, if you will. That's all the time we have for this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan. Hope you enjoyed the show. Look forward to seeing you next week. Couple of different shows for you will be featured. And I'm Bruce Drennan. On behalf of Ryan Smith, my producer, we will be back next week. Looking forward to having you join us. Until then, as always, most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio, and I love you, Cleveland.
Thank you.